The Judicial Branch. The Judicial Branch. Focus question. What is the Judicial Branch responsible for and how does it protect citizens of the United States? The rule of law. In 1951, a group of black parents brought a lawsuit against the school district in Topeka, Kansas. They were suing on behalf of their children, including third grader Linda Brown. Topeka schools were segregated. Black children were not allowed to attend school with white children. In case Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the top court in the United States. In 1954, the court voted in favor of ending legal school segregation across the country. It was an important victory in the struggle for equal rights for black Americans. This legal case is an example of the judicial branch of the United States at work. This branch of government watches over the country's courts and legal system. It interprets and enforces the laws that guide our government and society. The Constitution and the judicial branch. In 1788, American leaders adopted the Constitution. It laid out a system of laws and principles to govern the young country. This system has changed over time but is still in use today. The Constitution splits the federal government into three branches or parts. The executive branch, led by the president, handles most government businesses and departments. The legislative branch, consisting of the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, makes laws. The judicial branch watches over the U.S. courts and the legal system. The three branches sometimes cooperate and compromise. At other times, they oppose each other. The Constitution is made up of 7 sections. One of these explains the role of the judicial branch and describes the kinds of legal cases the federal courts handle. For example, they take cases for or against the U.S. government, cases between states, cases that involve violations of the Constitution, and cases that involve breaking federal laws. 2 kinds of law, criminal and civil. Legal systems deal with 2 areas of law, criminal and civil. Criminal law deals with crimes such as theft, assault, and property damage. People found guilty in criminal court may be sent to prison. Civil law involves cases in which a person, businesses, or organizations feels it has been harmed by someone else. Civil cases may end in settlements for money. For example, but no one is at the risk of going to prison. Sometimes when a victim cannot get justice through criminal courts, they can turn to civil courts. Most legal cases, criminal and civil, are decided without ever going to trial. Organization and operation of the judicial branch. The judicial branch consists of the system of federal courts. They include district courts, U.S. Courts of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. Each court is managed by one or more judges. Most federal cases start in a U.S. District Court. There are 89 U.S. District Courts across the United States, at least one in every state. There are also 5 district courts in U.S.-controlled territories. Some federal cases result in a trial by jury in which a group of citizens hear the case and make a judgment. Other trials, known as bench trials, involve the judge acting as both judge and jury. The losing side may not agree with the court's final decision. Once a ruling is made, lawyers for the losing side may ask a court of appeals to reconsider the decision. 13 U.S. Courts of Appeals exist across the country. The purpose of the appeals courts is not to settle the trial. Instead, a panel of 3 judges reviews decisions from the district court. They decide whether each case was handled properly. Depending on what they found, they may uphold the ruling. The Supreme Court of the United States, located in Washington, D.C., acts as the top appeals court. Each year, thousands of people ask this top court to consider their appeals, but very few are taken. The Supreme Court judges, known as justices, carefully study each case they agreed to hear. They also take part in arguments in which they listen to lawyers for each side to ask questions. They later vote on the case to decide the winning side. The Supreme Court often deals with the most challenging legal cases. A Supreme Court decision can help shape the U.S. government and even American society. Math Minute. Each year, the Supreme Court receives about 7,500 requests to consider a case. Of those cases, the court usually hears fewer than 150. Using those numbers, 7,500 and 150, what fraction of these cases does the Supreme Court actually hear? Simplify the fraction. The courts in action. Most Americans only experience the U.S. judicial system through TV shows. Few real-life legal cases are so dramatic. Most never go to trial, and some take many years to resolve. Just because legal battles may not be exciting does not mean they're not important. Here are 3 examples of landmark Supreme Court cases. Trinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District. In 1975, the parents of 3 teenagers sued the school district in Iowa. The students had been suspended for wearing black armbands to school. The armbands were meant to protest American involvement in the Vietnam War. The students argued that the school district violated their right to free speech by suspending them. In 1969, the Supreme Court sided with the students. The decision ruled that students have the right to free speech in school as long as it is not disruptive. Gideon verbs. Wainwright. In 1961, Clarence Gideon was arrested for breaking into a Florida pool hall and stealing. He could not afford to hire a lawyer, and the